Hey new bodies, back with another one of our 10 principle sessions that we're doing. So this one is on keep it simple. It's almost less of a principle than it is just a general good sense tip for how to make this health and fitness quest that you're starting stick and be part of your life. When I first start talking to people, usually one of the first things they tell me is, I can't fill in the blank. So they come up with all the things that sound too difficult or just won't work for them or too hard because they don't have time, they don't have the ability, or they're not able to, in their minds, make room for that to stick in their life. So a lot of the things that I talk to people about early on are the simplifications or the tricks of the trade to make it work better for you. So, one of the things I really focus on is getting protein first thing in the morning. And I did a piece recently on some really great advice on protein shakes, and how to get protein in your diet. You can use my protein bars or slow carb bars. But you can also take some of those tricks to get that stuff working for you first thing in the morning without it being a big endeavor. So yeah, you can use a protein shake, but I talk about using omelets. So, make an omelet and have that in the morning. It's a great whole food way to get protein in your diet. And people hear that and they're like, oh, I can't start cooking within 30 minutes of waking up and, do everything else I have to do in the day, and I might wake up everyone in my house. Well, here's a tip. Cook it the night before, stick it in the fridge in some foil, pop it in the toaster oven when you wake up, or if you're comfortable using a microwave, then stick it in the microwave. There are things you can do to simplify your life. And if the idea of making an omelet the night before sounds too difficult, well, there's a number of other ways that you can get it. Get that protein. You can hard boil some eggs, and you can stick some eggs in a pot of water on the stove. That's not a lot of work. So you just hard boil a few eggs the night before. Really not a big deal. But the key here is looking for things that you can use to simplify what you need to do to get on a healthier course. So if it's about, how do you get more vegetables in your diet? I happen to have found out that there's a place right across the street from my office that has a huge salad bar that I never knew about. So for me it was, I wanted to up my vegetable intake and decrease my intake of other things, especially when I got hungry sort of mid-afternoon. So I would pop out to their salad bar and make a salad, and I'd fill myself up on that. It took, all of 3 minutes, cost about $3, and that was a simple way for me to increase the stuff I should be getting, decrease the stuff I shouldn't be getting. Actually, I felt great about it, and it really wasn't a lot of work. I didn't need to plan ahead. I didn't need to prepare something at home and make sure I had it at work and make sure it didn't spoil or go get too warm from sitting out. So that was a great simplification and solution for me. The other thing you can do is don't just cook one meal at a time. Make a slightly larger batch and stick some of it in the freezer so that you can pull that stuff whenever you need it. So for example, I've got a recipe on my blog for a really good turkey chili that I know a number of you have tried and have really enjoyed, so I'm glad for that feedback. I call it optional chili because you can add and delete and substitute things in. You can make it vegan and drop the turkey out of it. You can use ground beef if you want to go for red meat. It's totally up to you. You can even do a seafood version, but it keeps really well, freezes really well. So when I make it, I typically will set aside 2 to 3 servings that I'll put in the fridge, and the rest of it I'll throw in mason jars right into the freezer. Just gotta remember, leave a little room, because as it freezes it will expand, and you don't want to open the freezer and find a bunch of broken mason jars. But those are super simple. So I'll grab one the night before I want to have it for dinner, stick it in the fridge, and by the next night it's basically thawed enough to tip it upside down, drop it into a little pot, warm it up, and I'm good to go. Get a whole dinner. It took me no effort then. And the incremental effort of making a bigger batch of chili, I wasn't even aware of it, because you're sort of, you're throwing stuff in a pot, you're covering it up, and you're letting it simmer for a while. Whether you're doing that with 4 quarts or 2 quarts or 6 quarts or whatever, you're not really going to notice the difference. So that's a simplification to make life easier in following the right kind of diet. The same can be said for exercise. If you find you can't find the time during the day to get in an exercise, but if you live a certain distance from work and there's a good route to take, you could bike to work, you could run to work, you could do a mix of the two. I've done all 3 of those things, and I've got a Twitter hashtag that's CUYOP. It's CUYOP. You should search for it, and you should use it if you are going to commute to work under your own power. So that's what CUYOP means. It's commute under your own power. CUYOP. So that's a way that I have simplified my schedule to increase my exercise or make exercise easier without cutting down on my sleep and still getting into work on time. Works really well. So the challenge I want to put to you is take all that effort you're putting into saying no or saying why you can't do something or why something's too hard or feels like too much of a burden. Take that same energy you're putting into all the excuses to push back and channel it into finding ways to make it simpler for you so you can do it. So combining your exercise with your commute. Pre-cooking a bunch of meals, be it a breakfast the night before, making it and refrigerating it, or just making a larger batch of something that you can freeze and take out as and when you need it. There are a number of ways you can simplify your path to being healthier, to being fitter, and ultimately, you will enlighten your body.